If you were to die tomorrow, would you die happy or would you die with regret? That's a question I've been thinking about a lot lately. As a health scientist working in the field of palliative care, I'm constantly confronted by the reality of mortality and the preciousness of life. But it wasn't until my granddad passed away recently that I really started to think about this. The question I can't seem to shake off is whether or not he had any regrets in his life. But I guess I never know. I will never be able to ask him. And this made me wonder, what are some of the most common regrets that people have at the end of their lives? Can we avoid having these regrets? And more personally, what might I regret at the end of my life? It doesn't take long before you stumble across Bronnie Ware, who worked in palliative care for nearly 8 years and even wrote a book about her experience called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. When she asked people at the end of their lives what sort of regrets they had, the most common themes were: I wish that I had let myself be happier. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. And most commonly, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. But when you dig a bit deeper than these 5 common regrets, you also find that the underlying reason people have these type of regrets is because they don't become the ideal version of themselves. There's this study from Cornell University called The Ideal Road Not Taken, where psychologists found that there are 3 main parts to how people think about themselves. There's the actual self, who people think they are, the ideal self, who people want to be, and the old self, who people feel they should be based on duties and responsibilities. So not becoming your ideal version of yourself means that there's a gap between the actual self and who you would like to become. As Dan Sullivan states it, the definition of hell is your last day on earth, the person you became meets the person you could have become. So if you want to reverse engineer these regrets, you need to line up your actual self with your ideal self while minimalizing your old self. In other words, you need to figure out who you want to become and then take steps or action to actually becoming that person. Now, there are 3 easy steps you can follow to do this. Step number 1 is to list your most likely end-of-life regrets. To do this, just close your eyes and picture yourself on your deathbed. If you reflect back on your life, what will be the sort of things that you know you'd regret if you never had the chance to do them? And then write these regrets down. Step number 2, identify the reasons behind these potential regrets. Think about the reason why. Why do you think you would have these regrets? You can just simply write it in 1 sentence or multiple sentences to explain the why. Lastly, determine actionable steps you can take today to prevent them. Simply ask yourself how you're going to take steps to become your ideal self. The more specific you make your how, the easier it will be to actually take these steps. Okay, now that you know what steps to take to identify your regrets, the reasons why, and how to take steps towards becoming your ideal self, I quickly want to share my top regrets by using this framework. So my number 1 regret is not taking care of my first foundation. So what I mean by this is taking care of my health. I'm a big fan of Stephen Bartlett, and in his book, The 33 Laws of Life and Business, he writes about taking care of your first foundation. I could see that my work, my girlfriend, my friends, my dog, my family, everything I owned were all just items placed on a fragile table called my health. Life could take any of those items off the table, as it often does, and I would still have everything else on the table. You could remove my dog, God forbid, and I'd still have everything else on the table. You could take my girlfriend off the table, and I would still have everything else. But if you remove the table, my health, everything falls to the floor. I would lose it all. Everything is contingent on the table. Everything is contingent on my health. My health is my first foundation. So how am I going to take care of my first foundation? Well, it's first of all to prioritize my health on a daily basis. But one of the things that I've done is actually sign up for my first ever half marathon, just to have something to work towards to and make me accountable pretty much. My second regret is not spending enough time with my parents. You probably never thought about this, but around 90% of your time with your parents has been spent between the ages of 0 and 18 years old. I'm now 31, so my time with my parents is quite limited. And especially since I'm on the other side of the world, I'm lucky to even see my parents once a year. So for me, it is my priority to at least see them once a year, and if possible, twice a year. I highly encourage you to do this exercise. Simply ask yourself these 3 questions. What are the potential regrets you might harbor at life's end? Are your current actions helpful to avoiding these regrets? And if not, what changes can you make to build a fulfilling, regret-free life? As the old saying goes, it's not the things in life you do that you regret. It's the things in life that you don't do.